Support comes from PCC Community Markets. PCC's in-store chefs are celebrating peak season citrus with an assortment of fresh deli recipes. Made from scratch daily, the dishes include creamy chipotle chicken salad and grilled lemon harissa green beans, with 15 PCC neighborhood locations.
Hey, it's Patricia Murphy. It's Thursday. This is Seattle Now. Perhaps you've heard. We have a new president, and he's betting big on our ability to work together.
This is our historic moment of crisis and challenge, and unity is the path forward.
We'll talk uniting the not-so-united states with University of Washington poli-sci professor Christopher Parker in a minute. But first, let's get you caught up. 3 more Seattle police officers have come forward to say they attended the Stop the Steal rally that led to the U.S. Capitol attack January 6th. That makes 5 SPD officers who are now being investigated by the Office of Police Accountability for possibly taking part in the insurrection. If it's found that they entered the Capitol, they could face federal charges and will lose their jobs, according to Interim Chief Diaz. The 3 officers are still on the job while the investigation is underway. Second graders in the Bellevue School District will return to the classroom today without their teachers. It comes after the teachers' union asked the district to pause its reopening plan this week until all educators can be vaccinated. But the district is going ahead anyway and says it will have substitute teachers and administrators teach the in-person classes. The union says it will meet again tomorrow to figure out its next move. And Amazon is offering to help the Biden administration with its goal to vaccinate 100 million Americans in its first 100 days. The company sent a letter yesterday offering operations and IT help and emphasizing that its huge frontline workforce should be vaccinated as soon as possible. Amazon even said it already has plans to run vaccine clinics at its facilities. In his inaugural address, just like he did in his campaign, President Joe Biden came back to one main theme, one idea that he believes can get the country past a pandemic, an economic upheaval, and powerful calls for racial justice.
To overcome these challenges, to restore the soul and secure the future of America, requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy. Unity. Unity.
We're talking about the prospects for unity in a still divided America today with Chris Parker. He's a professor of political science at the University of Washington. Chris, good to talk to you. Thank you for taking the time.
Real busy day, but I'm happy to be here on KUOW.
Yeah. President Biden talks a lot about unity. He's pitching it as his plan for governing. He says he'll be a president for all Americans. But I am also hearing some strong calls for accountability. How do you weigh those two ideas?
That's a very good question. I'm going to try to keep this clean because this is really kind of emotional for me in some ways. So I think unity is definitely a good thing. I mean, clearly, after 4 years of constant and unremitting divisiveness, that's certainly called for. But I find it kind of odd that after Republicans cause all the damage that they've caused, you know, of course, including 2 weeks ago, the Capitol riot, that they now want to say something about unity after encouraging these people to traipse through the Capitol, you know, with Confederate flags and Nazi regalia and symbolism. Now Republicans want to call for unity. And Biden is sort of abetting that. And I get that, right? But no, we cannot have unity absent accountability. That is just not going to work. For a segment, yeah, that might work, but no. And I can tell you right now, you know, as someone who studies public opinion and specializes in race and politics, that people of color, especially black folks, are not going to be okay with this.
I have heard the sentiment that we are too quick to forget in America.
Yes. And for people of color, I'm telling you right now, this is not going to fly. Of course, there'll be some that'll be like, hey, you know, everything was really fractured and divisive and messed up. There are fissures in society. The fact that he's gone is good enough for me, right? I get that, right? And there's going to be some of that. But for people of color, especially black folks who put Biden in office in the first place, let's not get this twisted. Let's keep this 100%. Were it not for South Carolina, and for Clyburn, who endorsed Biden in South Carolina and brought all these black people to the polls, he would not be here right now. If we think about what black people did in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Georgia, Pennsylvania, right? Biden would not be in the White House, right? Democrats would not effectively have a majority. If you look at the turnout of black folks in those states, especially, in the inner cities or in the cities, right? I'm not saying white folks in the suburbs didn't do their bit either. I'm not saying that, right? But I'm saying absent black folks, no way, no how. They know this, right? That they have to do something about it. Now, whether or not it's symbolic or material, that remains to be seen.
What does accountability even look like then? Give me some of your ideas that would go well with the path to unity here.
So there was one step towards this when Trump was impeached. But let's be real about this. I mean, that was mainly Nancy Pelosi, right, pushing this, right? Biden didn't weigh in on this at all. He was very, very intentional in remaining clear of this. And I get that for strategic purposes, and perhaps even for some political purposes, right? This is what my concern is. My concern is that people of color and progressives may not be so quick to turn out next time if there is no accountability. And one of the other things I want to say is that this could be an inflection point. So the last time white supremacists really showed who they were to the world, not just to the rest of the country, but to the world, was in the mid-1960s. We have the fire hoses and dogs associated with Birmingham and Bull Connor in 1963. We have the Selma March in 1965, otherwise known as Bloody Sunday. So what happened from those? Well, guess what happened? We had the Civil Rights Act in 1964, the Voting Rights Act in 1965, that were products of white folks, white supremacists showing their natural asses in the South. And you know why? It's because the powers that be had to do something. It was the height of the Cold War, the Bay of Pigs, and the Cuban Missile Crisis were only a few years before. So if we're talking about a Cold War where the United States needs to retain its moral credibility, then they had to do something. And so I'm thinking we have the same conditions that are present right now.
You have been looking at Biden voters and what they're about. Are they totally on board with this unity appeal as well?
No, they're not. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. No, they are not. The moderate Biden voters, they're cool with this, right? But people who are more progressive, by any criteria, they are not, right? Now, will some go grudgingly along? Yeah, some will go grudgingly along, but there will be enough people who are holding out. So here's the irony. The irony is that in order for the Democrat Party to remain cohesive, it needs Trumpism, if not Trump. Because if Trumpism is not around and there's not a common foe to fight, then you're going to get a faction. You're going to have the Democrat Party split.
Okay, I want to talk about the former president because you've said before that you thought it was a good thing that Trump was elected. Do you still feel like after 4 years, the Trump presidency was a good thing for the country?
I do. Let me tell you something. I said this on another interview recently with one of my colleagues. It was over free speech. And he was in favor of criminalizing hate speech or intolerant speech. And I get that. As a black man, I kind of get that. But in a place like Seattle, where, folks aren't really that blatant about their racism, I kind of want to see where my enemy is coming from, right? I don't want to get stabbed in the back. Come at me from the front so I can do something about it. And so I think having Trump as president, it fleshed all these people out. If they were hiding before, they're out in the sunlight now.
Wait a minute, because they were out in the sunlight. Then I wonder if Biden's presidency and a return to the predictability and the status quo of the White House leaves open the possibility that these calls for racial justice and equity become just sidelined again because we have no daily fire drill in the White House.
Right. I worry about that. I really do. I think that is definitely a possibility. If, for the sake of comity, right? Comity with a T, that Biden might sideline some of this stuff. And once again, this is going to be a problem for the Democrat Party. As much as black folks did to put him in office, if he starts to sideline that, especially with a black VP, that is going to be a serious problem. And he's aware of this. I know he's aware of this. So this is going to be a knife edge he's going to be forced to walk, right? Like, how much do I give to, to racial justice, without driving away, some of the white folks in the working class and in the middle who voted for me? That is going to be a serious knife edge for him to walk.
Sounds like somebody's trying to get a hold of you, Chris Parker.
Yeah, that was my email. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Chris Parker is a professor of political science at the University of Washington. Really appreciate this conversation. Thank you.
Good to be here, Trish. Nice talking to you.
To learn more about Chris Parker's work, visit his website, ChristopherSebastianParker.com. Seattle Now is produced by Clare McGrane, Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our music. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow.